and we'll begin at 245. So to quickly recap, in the previous chapter, Shaunaka Rishi, in order to encourage Sutta Goswami and express his own interest and that of the sages, had spoken very strongly about the glories of Shravan Kirtan and had condemned the materialistic aspect of life. In the fourth chapter, Sutta Goswami begins by glorifying Maharaj Parikshit. So he calls Maharaj Parikshit as glorifies him as the son of Uttara, who, following the instructions of Sukadev Goswami, immediately applies the instruction, and with his full concentration, he positions himself to listen about the glories of Krishna. And he talks about the detachment of Maharaj Parikshit, that how he was able to give up his affection for his own body, Atma, his wife, Jaya, his son, etc. And accompanying this material detachment was a strong sense of spiritual attachment. So we see both of these happening in Maharaj Parikshit. So he meditates on the fact that he has only 7 days to live. He renounces dharma, arth, and kam. And after having detached himself materially, he uses all his facilities to firmly fix himself on Krishna. So that is the situation of Maharaj Parikshit. Materially detached, spiritually attached. And in this mood, he is now asking the question. So Sutta Goswami says that, and this is where we ended, he says that in this mood, Maharaj Parikshit asked me all these questions. I'm sorry, Maharaj Parikshit asked Sukadev Goswami all these questions, just as you are asking me. So the understanding is that now Sutta Goswami is going to change the focus of the conversation to Sukadev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit. So conversation within a conversation. The conversation between Sutta Goswami and Saunaka Adi is now nesting into itself the conversation between Sukadev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit, which will further nest itself in it the conversation between Lord Brahma and Narad Muni. So this is how we came here, and so now we start with 245. Rajavacha Samechinam Vacho Brahman Sarvagya Satavangaha Tama Vishrajayate Mahayam Hare Katayata Katham. Maharaj Parikshit said, O learned Brahman, you know everything because you are without material contamination. Therefore, whatever you have spoken to me appears perfectly right. Your speeches are gradually destroying the darkness of my ignorance, for you are narrating the topics of the Lord. So in this verse, Parikshit Maharaj is revealing for our benefit that what is the litmus test? What is the practical way for us to understand that the Srimad Bhagavatam is acting upon us? So he talks about three symptoms, the first being the root and the second two being the cause. So he says, Samichanam Vachaha, that what you're saying is perfectly right. What does that mean? It means that it is according to the Siddhanta and it is according to the Parampara and it is according to the Kal, Desh and Patra, according to the time, place, circumstance. So that is why he is glorifying that whatever you're saying, perfectly right. Now what is the result of this? He says, Tamaha Vishiryate, that it is gradually destroying my ignorance. So Maharaj Parikshit is speaking from the perspective of a practicing devotee. Even though he is a Mahabhagavat and a moment's association would have been enough, but he deliberately uses the word that it is gradually destroying my ignorance. So that is the nature of spiritual discussions. They have an effect, but the effect is gradual. Not because the potency is limited, but because our ability to receive that potency is limited. And so the example sometimes is given that if a person is inside a cave deep inside a mountain, and then somebody like Indra is coming with his thunderbolt and he's striking the mountain over and over with his thunderbolt. So he's chipping away at the mountain, but the person sitting in the cave will only see things incrementally. From complete darkness, he might see diffuse darkness, diffuse light, and ultimately complete light. So that is the nature of how a conditioned soul will make progress. Tamaha Vishiryate. That tamaha means ignorance. So the ignorance will get gradually destroyed. And what will this be accompanied with? Hare Kathayam Katha. That positive enlightenment about Krishna. So just the destruction of ignorance is not enough. Just the destruction of ignorance will take you to the Brahmajyoti, that one may get liberated. When one gets liberated, then one is at a point of not being bound to the material world. But unless one has positive enlightenment about Krishna, Hare Kathayata Katham, the destination will be in vacuum. So Parishad Maharaj is glorifying what Sukadev Goswami is saying, which is why he calls perfectly right. That it has both the effects. It destroys his ignorance and it gives him positive enlightenment about Krishna. So Parishad Maharaj also, he gives all the credit to Sukadev Goswami. So earlier on, Sutta Goswami had said that how Parishad Maharaj, so these three things were illustrated by, in the preceding verses, by Sutta Goswami, especially the last two things, the symptomatic effect of Saminchan Vacha. So he had talked about how Parishad Maharaj gave up all his material attraction, which is a manifest symptom of Tama Vishrayate, that once ignorance is destroyed. Because material attachments is a symptom of ignorance. And then he had also mentioned how Parishad Maharaj was able to fully concentrate on Krishna and fully invest his energies into hearing Krishna's pastime. which was the result of Hare Katayata Katha. So what Parikshit Maharaj is saying has already been exemplified in his consciousness, in his behavior, and Sutta Goswami has already called our attention to it. So the fact that 2 and 3, the Tama Vishrajate and Hare Katayata Katam, are happening, it means that the cause, the Samichanam Vacha, has to be present. What does that mean? It means that the Bhagavatam has that potency. There is no question about it. Because by hearing Bhagavatam, he's been able to display these two symptoms. And he, in the mood of a devotee, Maharaj Parikshit says that all credit to you, Sukadeva Goswami, because he says you are Brahman Sarvagyasya Anaga. He says you're Brahman, you're a learned Brahman who knows everything, Sarvagyasa and Anaga. So Anaga means without material contamination. Anaga also means without a body, but in this context, it means without material contamination. So because Sukadeva Goswami is a worthy speaker of the Bhagavatam, Parikshit Maharaj is saying that all glories to you, because you are Sarvagyasa Anaga, because you know everything, you're beyond the modes. This is why everything that you're saying is Samichanam Vacha, is perfectly right. And the result of this is Tama Vishriyate, a destruction of my ignorance, and Hare Katayata Katham, and a positive enlightenment or a positive attraction to Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada gives this analogy that people often ask, am I making devotional advancement? So he says these are the symptoms of devotional attachment. That when one develops material detachment, when one experiences spiritual attachment, when one is able to connect oneself to a suitable spiritual master who is speaking according to the parampara and the tattva, then automatically spiritual advancement happens. He says that a hungry man is, if he's given food to eat, you don't have to ask him. As he eats, two things will automatically happen. His hunger will be satiated, and the pleasure of eating will simultaneously manifest. So the man does not need to ask separately that is the food acting on me or not? Am I being nourished by the food? Because the effect of eating happens whether he likes it or not. So this is the effect of Bhagavatam. If one is hearing Bhagavatam from a bona fide source, one is hearing with faith and with mental concentration, then automatically these two symptoms of destruction of ignorance and positive enlightenment about Krishna will manifest. The flip side is if one is reading or hearing the Bhagavatam and these two things are not happening, then something is missing. Either the source is faulty, either the speaker is not qualified, or the person is not hearing in the proper mood. So Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse from Shvetashvatar Upanishad, and this is one of Prabhupada's favorite verses. Yasya deva parabhaktir yasya deva tatha guru tasya te katitayartha prakashante mahatmanaha. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. So, same point being made. Surrender to a bona fide guru, faith in Krishna, faith in the scriptures, and the imports are automatically revealed, which means that no amount of study, no amount of debate, no amount of memorization will help one realize the purports. But by these two things, by having faith in Krishna and Guru, they will be automatically revealed. Okay, next verse 246. भूय एव विवित्सामि भगवानात्ममायया यथेदं सृजते विश्वं दुर्विभायम् adishwarah. I beg to know from you how the personality of Godhead, by his personal energies, creates these phenomenal universes as they are, which are inconceivable even to great demigods. So as we had discussed earlier on, that this discussion of Sarga, or the creation of the material world, at this critical juncture is very interesting. Because previously, Sukadeva Goswami had instructed Parishad Maharaj with full attention and faith to listen to Krishna Katha. And in Sarga, Krishna is not fully present. He's present as Lord Vishnu, but it's mostly around Lord Brahma. That Lord Vishnu is empowering Lord Brahma to create, which is the secondary creation called Visarga. So Parishad Maharaj is saying to Sukadeva Goswami that you have instructed what I should hear and chant at the point of death. You have told me that I should hear and chant the Naam, Roop, Gun, Leela of Krishna. So now, according to your instructions, I am asking you about the Leela of Krishna, the pastimes of Krishna on which I can meditate. But he is not asking about the pastimes of Krishna in Golok Vrindavan. He is asking about Krishna's pastimes with respect to the material world. Specifically, he is asking about Krishna's external energy, Maya Shakti. And the reason is because of the benefit of the typical audience of Srimad Bhagavatam, who are themselves situated in Krishna's external energy. So before he starts talking, now he will also talk about Krishna's internal energy later on, but he's establishing a point of reference because the audience are familiar with Krishna's external energy. If there is a description of the spiritual world, it becomes theoretical. If there's a description of the material world, it becomes experiential. One can experience the earth planet, one can see the sun and the moon and the stars. Not all aspects of the universe are empirically observable, but there are a lot more observable than the spiritual world, where all the trees are desired trees, where every particle is a chintamani, where every step is a dance, where every word is a song. So these are things that we can imagine, but things in the material world we can experience or closely experience. So that's where Parishad Maharaj talks about the material world. So he had only 7 days to live, and despite the fact that he has a shortage of time, he's going through this systematic process because, and again largely for our benefit, that unless one knows the greatness of Krishna, one cannot achieve true appreciation of Krishna. So Parishad Maharaj already knew that Krishna is the source of all the worlds. Now he is asking about the process, that the how part. How does Krishna achieve this? And the reason is that details lend credence to facts, just as facts lend credence to philosophy. So I can speak philosophically about something that the philosophy states that if you give in charity, you will experience material opulence. And then I can quote a fact that Mr. Such and Such, he's a great philanthropist. And you can see how materially opulent he is. That's a fact which lends credence to the philosophy. And then further details that Mr. X and X, every day, he gives so much of his wealth in charity. At one point, he gave so much charity to such and such person. So the more details we give, the more embellished the facts become. And the more facts we get, the stronger credence to philosophy. So philosophically, Parikshit Maharaj knew, and we know, that Krishna is the source of all the worlds. Now he's asking for detail. How does Krishna create the world? So in the next 5 verses, Parikshit Maharaj will ask 3 questions to Sukadeva Goswami. First, how does the Lord create the universes which are inconceivable? So why are the universes inconceivable? Because there are millions of them. And every universe is different. Every universe has a different Brahma. And every universe has its own time scale, has its own dimensions, has its own demigods. So conceiving the totality of the universe, conceiving even the single universe that we live in, is very difficult. So he says, how does the Lord create the universes? Then the second question he asks is, how does the Lord engage his energies and expansions in maintaining and destroying the universes? So after having created them, how does he, through his energy and through his expansion, maintain these universes and then ultimately destroy them? And then the third question he asks is that, does the one Lord himself direct the modes of nature, or does he do this work through his expansions? So this question is a little bit more philosophical, and the purport of the question is, does Krishna ever come in direct contact with the modes of material nature? So and the deeper purport of the question is that what is the relationship between Krishna and the material nature? So the understanding is that after Krishna creates, maintains, and destroys the universe, does he become trapped into it? So in more contemporary settings, we see that how a person becomes absorbed in his own creation. One makes a painting, or one creates a building, and then he becomes very attached to the building, and then he maintains it, and maybe takes part in destroying it. But when he creates it, he feels happiness. When he maintains it, he feels satisfaction. When he destroys it, he feels distress. So in the conventional sense, there is a lot of strong connection between the creator and the created. So Parikshit Maharaj is asking, is that also true in the case of Krishna? After having created, maintained, and destroyed the universe, does he also become involved within it? So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, only when one knows Lord Krishna's greatness can one firmly put one's unflinching faith in him. Otherwise, like the common man, even the great leaders of men will mistake Krishna for one of the many demigods, or a historical personality, or a myth only. The transcendental pastimes of the Lord in Vrindavan or even at Dwarka are relishable for persons who have already qualified themselves in advanced spiritual techniques. And the common man may be able to attain to such a plane by the gradual process of service and inquiries, as we shall see in the behavior of Maharaj Parikshit. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining and endorsing this approach, that a person who is already very advanced can draw pleasure in the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan or Dwarka. But for a common man, for a common person like us, this will be a gradual process that will come through the understanding of the details about Krishna's activities, which in turn will help us appreciate the greatness of Krishna and develop attachment for it. So what about Sukadeva Goswami now? Now Sukadeva Goswami is a transcendentalist, and then he may object to such material questions being asked. That I'm here to do Krishna Katha, so don't ask me about these modes of material nature and matter, etc. So in the previous verse, Parishit Maharaj had glorified Sukadeva Goswami as Sarvagyasya. Sarvagyasya, that means one who is all-knowing. So he's expecting Sukadeva Goswami to know all that is connected to Krishna, whether it is material or whether it is spiritual. So Prabhupada mentions in the purport that a spiritual master should actually know everything that can help his disciple make spiritual advancements. And we see that in Srila Prabhupada's own life, that whatever that could help his disciples make advancement, Srila Prabhupada was there to help. If you read the Lilamrita, you'll see how Prabhupada taught Yamuna Mataji to cook, how he taught Janki, the first Mukund Maharaj's wife at the time. He taught her how to tie a sari at the time of his marriage. And Prabhupada himself was laughing. He said, I'm a sannyasi, and this is what I'm doing. I'm teaching a lady how to tie a sari. He taught his disciples accounting, that how to balance ledgers, how to follow through to debits and credits, taught them contract management, negotiation, cooking in large scales, taught them the art of bargaining by doing it himself. So everything that was needed. Srila Prabhupada did not say that all I'm going to do is teach you Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavad, but everything that is needed, Srila Prabhupada did that. And that's the mood. Now, of course, it does not mean that spiritual master is expected to be like a walking encyclopedia of useless facts. It doesn't mean that the disciple goes to the spiritual master and says that, who's going to win the next Super Bowl, or which stock is going to do well, and where should I buy my house. So those are all, those are useless facts that have no bearing on the disciple's spiritual advancement. Prabhupada was sometimes asked these questions: how many windows in the World Trade Center? How many fishes in the Pacific Ocean? People will say, "You are Guru, you know everything." And different times Prabhupada would give different answers. One time he would say, "This is useless." But he said, "How is this question going to help you escape the cycle of birth and death by knowing the number of windows?" And then once he was asked the question, how many fishes in the Pacific Ocean? And he said, as many grains in the desert. So just Prabhupada, just a clever way of saying that this world is full of useless facts. You can collect them till the end of the day. They will not help you. But anything that can help the person to make spiritual advancements, the spiritual master is there to help. And Parishit Maharaj is setting the example of how to hear. His perfection was by hearing, and that is why Parishit Maharaj renounced everything, because that was his service. His service was hearing Srimad Bhagavad. For him, that service was so important that he gave up everything else. So if you notice, Parikshit Maharaj did not only give up his material absorption, he also gave up all his other spiritual activities. So it is very reasonable to understand that as a Grahastha, Parikshit Maharaj was involved in a lot of daily spiritual practice. We see that in Krishna and Dwarka, that he got up in the morning, he did worship the sun god, gave in charity to the Brahmins, performed a yajna, and performed the Sandhya Vandanam. So, so many spiritual practices that are done. It's reasonable to understand that Parikshit Maharaj was doing all of them. But he gave up everything, his material and his spiritual practices for this one thing, which is Shravan. So by this one can understand how important and potent it is in this age of Kali to make spiritual advancements. Okay, let me stop here and see if there is any questions or comments. Okay, so if there are no questions, we can move to the next verse, 247. यथा गोपायति विभुर्यथा संयचते पुनः यां यां शक्तिम् उपाश्रित्य पुरुषक्ते परः पुमान् आत्मनानं कृत्यन् कृत्यन् करति विक्रोति च. Kindly describe how the Supreme Lord, who is all-powerful, engages his different energies and different expansions in maintaining and again winding up the phenomenal world in the sporting spirit of a player. So, this is the first question of Maharaj Parikshit, that how does the Lord create the universe that is inconceivable? And and then if you look at the question, the question is about the specifics now. Now he's not asking general philosophy. So he's saying, how does he engage his different energies and different expansions? Right? So he's asking specifically. And the reason he's able to ask this question is because he's already on an elevated platform. He knows that Krishna does not directly create. Right? So he's on that platform, but he's asking specifically. And then he asks both the questions. So he asks that in maintaining and again winding up the phenomenal world. So 246, the previous verse was, how does he create this universes? And 247 is, how does he maintain and destroy them? Actually, I made a mistake in my notes, 6 and 7. So 7 is about how does he maintain and destroy. So this verse, it is pointing to both Sarga and Visarga. It's pointing to both the primary creation and the secondary creation. So Krishna is described as sporting with the Maya Shakti, Kridam. So Kridam means Krida. Krida means sports, and sports means that one something that one engages for enjoyment, for fun. So Krishna is sporting with his material energy, and through that Atmanaha Karoti. Through that he himself creates a form, Atmana Karoti, or he creates a form of himself. So both are valid translations. Atmana Karoti, that he himself creates a form, which points to Sarga, or he creates a form of himself because the material energy is a form of Krishna, right? It's the external form of Krishna. So he creates a form of himself in the form of Pradhan, which then becomes, as we know, through successive transformations into the Mahatattva, where all the universes exist. So this is a question about Sarga, primary creation. Why? Because Krishna is the doer. From nothing, he is creating this. So Atmanam Karoti. By himself, without any help from others, without any sustenance from anybody else, Atmanam Karoti, he uses he sports with his material energy and creates this form. Now, in addition to this, Parishit Maharaj also says that he's engaging the others. So, who are the others? These are great personalities like Lord Brahma, the Saptarishis, and the four Kumars. So these are others who will be assisting him in the creation. So this is Visarga. So Atmanam Vikaroti. So Atmanam Vikaroti here is pointing to the Visarga. That from his own body, he is creating all the ingredients for the material universe. And Atmanam Vikaroti, that by his own empowerment, great personalities like Brahma and Marich will begin to create the secondary universe. So this is Visarga. And the cha that comes between Karoti and Vikaroti. So Karoti means he does himself. Vikaroti means he causes it to be done. And the cha and the and indicates that both of these are happening simultaneously. So this is the inconceivable mystic power of Krishna. That everything is simultaneously one with him and simultaneously different from him. The Sarga and the Visarga are simultaneously happening. He's creating the universe himself, and as he's creating the universe himself, he's also empowering others who are also creating the universe. And all this is happening at the same time. So this is why it is said that he has this is a display of his inconceivable potency, which is what Mahaprabhu calls as the Achinta Bheda Veda. So in the purport, Prabhupada says that in the Katha Upanishad 2.13, the Supreme Lord is described as the chief eternal amongst all other individual beings. So this is the famous verse, Nitya Nitya Nam Chetna Chetna Nam Eko Bahu Nam. So, and Prabhupada said, and the one Supreme Lord who maintains innumerable individual living beings, Eko Bahu Nam Yo Vidadati Kaman. So all living entities, both in the conditioned state and in the liberated state, are maintained by the Almighty Spiritual Lord. Okay, next verse, 248. Nunam Bhagavato Brahman Hareradbhuto Karmanaha Durvibhavyamiva Bhati Kavabhischapi Chestitam. O learned Brahman, the transcendental activities of the Lord are all wonderful, and they appear inconceivable because even great endeavors by many learned scholars have still proved insufficient for understanding them. So Parishit Maharaj is again asking Sukadeva Goswami to explain. But he is also acknowledging the fact that these activities are impossible to understand. So one may question that if the activities are impossible to understand, then why are you asking to Why are you asking Sukadeva Goswami to explain? Also, why are you assuming that Sukadeva Goswami has understood the activities that you yourself are saying that that they are inconceivable? So the implicit point that is being made over here is that the ability to understand is actually a mercy that is imparted by Krishna through the parampara, through the guru, to the sincere student. So Parishar Maharaj, when he says that they're inconceivable, and he makes a point that they appear to be inconceivable. So they are inconceivable when one is trying to understand them on their own. By one's own effort, it is inconceivable. But by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, that inconceivable becomes conceivable. Now, uh, the other point is that these instructions will be imparted to the level of understanding of the recipient. But yet people may not fully understand or still have unanswered questions. So in order to ensure that such persons do not lose faith, Parishar Maharaj is giving an advance warning. Not everything can be explained, and not everything explained can be understood. So this is the more practical aspect of it. So one point that is being made, that without the mercy of Guru and Krishna, these things are inconceivable. Second point that is made is, even if the person is sincere, the person may not able to understand everything because of the limitation. Sometimes because of the limitation of the Guru, sometimes because of the limitation of the disciple. So he's giving advance warning that when you read the Bhagavatam, there may be things that you will not be able to understand. But he said that do not worry. Not everything can be explained, and not everything that has been explained can be understood. That does not mean that it shakes your faith in Krishna. So when we read in the Bhagavatam the structure of the universe, this applies very strongly at that time. That we can read what the Bhagavatam is describing as the universe, but we can't understand everything. And even that we understand, we will find it difficult to reconcile. But that should not shake our faith. All that it means is that at this stage, this is what we can understand. And the process will advance to the point where we can understand a bit more, and a bit more. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that Maharaj Parikshit's statement regarding the workings of the creative energy of the Lord discloses that he knew everything of the process of creation. Why then did he ask Sukadeva Goswami for such information? Maharaj Parikshit, being a great emperor, a descendant of the Pandavas, and a great devotee of Lord Krishna, was quite able to know considerably about the creation of the world. But that much knowledge was not sufficient. He said, therefore, that even greatly scholars fail to know about that, even after great effort. So in the purport, we see that Prabhupada, he quotes several authorities, contemporary authorities of the time, to indicate that that even the scientific community is accepting the fact that life in various planets can exist. So Prabhupada in the purport says that the adaptability of an organism to different varieties of planets is described in the Brahma Samhita as Vibhuti Bhinnam. That is, each and every one of the innumerable planets within the universe is endowed with a particular type of atmosphere, And the living beings there are more perfectly advanced in science and psychology because of a better atmosphere. Vibhuti means specific powers, and Bhinna means variegated. Right? So we see that even on the Earth planet, that there are creatures that live in water, and what is their Vibhuti? That they can breathe in water. There are creatures that can live deep, deep inside Earth. There's no sunshine, there is no oxygen. But then what is their Vibhuti? That even in that darkness, they are able to sustain their lives and produce energy. So same thing, there is creatures of different planets who have vibhutis that are suited for surviving in those planets. So Srila Prabhupada is making this point over here to uh, to protect us from losing faith. So just like Parikshit Maharaj is making this point that not everything explained can be understood, Prabhupada is illustrating that, because the Bhagavatam will speak about the various planetary system and the nature of existence in those planets. And then we may turn to our own empirical scientific studies and either accept it or deny it. So Prabhupada is basically protecting us philosophically, that just like you see that how creatures in this earth, by having various vibhutis, survive in different circumstances, same thing also happens in other planets. Okay, next verse 249. Yatha gunam stu prakter yugapad kramashopi va vivarti bhuri sastveka purvan karmani janmabhihi. The Supreme Personality is one. Whether he alone acts with the modes of material nature, or simultaneously expands in any form, or expands consecutively to direct the modes of nature. So here Parikshit Maharaj is talking about the various kinds of expansions that come from Krishna. So Krishna's as Krishna's Tu Bhagwan Swayam, he can act, he can expand, like he can expand into Lord Balram and the Sankarshan and the Chaturvyuha, or he can expand consecutively, which means that this is a Purusharthas, to the Karnodakshaya Vishnu, to the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, to the Chodakshaya Vishnu, to direct the modes of material nature. So the entire material world is ruled by gunas, or the modes of material nature. And the point that Parikshit Maharaj is making over here is, so even though it's not a question, it's more of a statement, but because it's in the context of a question, it can be understood as that he is asking for clarification. And what is the relationship of the Lord with the gunas? Does he create them? When he expands into the gunavatars. So who are the gunavatars? Like Brahma, Marichi, and the others. Does he get contaminated by it? Does he become attached to the modes? So creation is more a passion. Maintenance is more of goodness. And destruction is mode of ignorance. So when all these activities are happening in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance, how is Krishna dealing with? And again, as in the previous verse, Prabhupada says, Sukadev, Parikshit Maharaj knew it, but he's also asking for our benefit. So that is why he's making a statement, but he's also asking for clarification. Okay, next verse 2:410. Vichikite shi विचिकित्सितम् एतान् मे ब्रवीतु भगवान् यथा शब्दे ब्रह्मणि निष्ठनाथ Parasmimscha Bhavan Khalu. Kindly clear up all these doubtful inquiries, because you're not only vastly learned in the Vedic literatures and self-realized in transcendence, but you're also a great devotee of the Lord and are therefore as good as the personality of Godhead. So Parikshit Maharaj is revealing the real qualifications of Sukdev Goswami to be in a position to address his questions. So as a great devotee of the Lord, he is as good as the Lord himself. So the same point is made by Krishna in so this is the verse in 11th canto, chapter 21, verse 42. Prabhupada in the purport says, Maharaj Parishit admitted in the previous verse that the Lord is inconceivable even for the greatest learned scholars. Why then should he again request Sukdev Goswami to clarify his insufficient knowledge about the Lord? The reason is clear. Not only was Sukdev Goswami vastly learned in the Vedic literature, but he was also a great self-realized soul and a powerful devotee of the Lord. A powerful devotee of the Lord is, by the grace of the Lord, more than the Lord himself. So how do we understand this statement of Prabhupada? So when Prabhupada says powerful devotee, he's talking about Shakti Vyasattar. So why is Prabhupada saying this, that a powerful devotee of the Lord is more than the Lord himself? Any thoughts?
Yeah, Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
The reason why he's saying like that is because Krishna is controlled by elevated devotees.
Yes, yes. That is definitely a part of the answer. Something else. So when Parishad Maharaj is saying that, so we'll condense it. The Shakti Vesh avatars are greater than Krishna, right? So one part that you're saying is because Krishna allows himself to be controlled by his devotee. To do what? So when he allows himself to be controlled, in what form does he allow that control to be manifest? What is the result of that control? You're there. You're almost there.
The result is that, like, that is why whatever the pure devotees say, it happens. This is the reason.
True. True. Anybody else? Any other thoughts?
He allowed the devotee to execute his, whatever he desire.
True.
Hare Krishna, and basically Krishna will do what the devotee asks Krishna to do. That's the loving relationship.
And what will this devotee ask Krishna to do?
It's really, most of the time, it is reciprocating the loving relationship. Not for your own pleasure, rather something that will be still pleasing to the Lord.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, that the devotee will always try to please Krishna only. He will ask only for a service or devotion.
Correct. Correct.
To deliver all the people of this earth.
Yes. Yes. So that's the reason Prabhupada is glorifying that. Why is a devotee of the Lord greater than the Lord? Because the devotee of the Lord can give the Lord to another person. Krishna cannot give himself. But Krishna's devotee
gives a seed of bhakti ki Krishna will do.
Yes, very good. So Krishna is great, true. But if there is a great treasure and it is behind a lock and key, and you don't have this behind a lock and you don't have the key, it does not take away the greatness of the treasure, but as far as you're concerned, it's not a treasure. You don't have access to it. But a person comes and unlocks the door and gives you the treasure, then that person is actually greater than the treasure, because without him, you didn't have that treasure. So so Prabhupada here is referring to spiritual master. So the spiritual master is considered to be a Shakti Veshavtar, empowered by Krishna. So by the mercy of an empowered devotee, Krishna allows himself to be given wherever this person wants. Prabhupada gave Krishna to people who were having illicit sex, intoxication, eating. But because if you read the Marking Bhagavatam prayers, then you see this reciprocation between Krishna and Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada says that if you want me to dance, I will dance, whatever you want me to do. But then he's also saying, my desire is that you liberate all these people. So that is why it makes the empowered devotee at a higher platform, because they make Krishna available to those that Krishna himself would not reach out. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, he gives the example of Hanuman. So Hanuman, in order to cross into Lanka, he did not need the bridge. He had already jumped over and crossed it, but he yet helped Lord Ram to build the bridge. Why? Because that was Lord Ram's desire, so that the other monkeys or those other in the army who were not as qualified as Hanuman could also have an opportunity to serve Lord Ram. Similarly, the example of Maharaj Ambarish is given. So we see that how Maharaj Ambarish, he had the power to save Durvasa Muni, but Lord Vishnu, he did not. He said, I cannot save you. Only Maharaj Ambarish can save you. So Lord Vishnu, he placed Maharaj Ambarish at a platform that was higher than himself. So these are the loving reciprocations between the Lord and his close devotees. So Prabhupada mentions, therefore, not only is a devotee of the Lord more powerful than the Lord, but also worship of the devotee is considered more effective than the direct worship of the Lord. Mad Bhakta Puja Abhyadika. So once again, Srila Prabhupada is drawing our attention to spiritual master. So for those of us who worship in the temple, we know that before you worship the deities, you worship the spiritual master. With the first prayer in the morning, there is no Krishna. Well, there is Krishna, but there is no worship of Krishna directly, right? Who do we worship first? Sansara Dava Nar Nila Loka. We are worshipping our spiritual master, right? After we worship our spiritual master, who do we worship? Do we worship Krishna? No. We worship Tulsi Devi, devotee of Krishna. After we worship Tulsi Devi, do we worship Krishna? No. We worship Guru. Well, we chant, which is worship of Krishna. But in terms of upchar, we worship Guru. When we worship the Guru, then we start worshipping Krishna there. Why? Because the worship of the devotee of a Krishna is much more pleasing to Krishna than his own worship. So in this context, Vishwanath Chakravarti says, the Vaishnav should hear the pastimes of Krishna and the avatars involving the Chit Shakti, but should similarly hear the pastimes of the Purusha avatars. Those pastimes should not be leered at. Leered at means that one should not think of them as less. The hearer Parishad Maharaj and the speaker Sukdev Goswami intended that those pastimes should be known. So this is again Vishwanath Chakravarti's instruction of not jumping to the 10th canto. That because the conversation was happening, there is a purpose. And he said they should not be leered at. They should be considered with gravity. And we see that Parishad Maharaj, he heard the instruction of Sukdev Goswami and then followed them chastely. And because of that, demonstratively, his faith increased. Parishad Maharaj, he gave up everything to do with his body. He took karma sannyas. And through the inquiries leading to Krishna, through the inquiries about the creation, the maintenance, and the destruction, Parishad Maharaj is establishing the philosophical basis of Krishna consciousness. Because when you begin to talk about the pastimes of Krishna, there's no philosophy there. No, philosophy is a little strong word, but philosophy is not strong over there. It is so behind every Krishna's pastimes there's this wonderful seminar by Bhakti Chaitanya Swami on the demons in Krishna Leela, where he mentions that how each demon is an anartha, and how that particular anartha is removed by Krishna. Similarly, when we look at the Govardhan Dharan Leela and the Rasa Leela, we see there's a lot of philosophy there also. But to appreciate that philosophy, one has to also appreciate the pastime, to appreciate the philosophy. So there is philosophy, but here what Parishad Maharaj is wanting to do for our benefit is to establish the philosophical basis of that which is conceivable. Later on, when the philosophical basis of that which is inconceivable is spoken, we will accept it. But now he's talking about establishing the philosophical basis, that which is conceivable. So Sukdev Goswami will now begin to describe the process of creation, which is considered to be by its own inconceivable even to the great demigods. Okay, so verse 11. Sutta vacha ityaupamantrito ragya gunanukanthane hare rishikesham anusmritya prativaktum prachakrame. Sutta Goswami said, when Sukadev Goswami was thus requested by the king to describe the creative energy of the personality of Godhead, he then systematically remembered the master of the senses, Sri Krishna, and to reply properly, he spoke thus. So it's interesting to note that Sukadev Goswami, even though Sarvagya, even though he knows everything, did not directly answer the question. But beginning in the next 8 verses, he will recite 8 prayers, which are essentially prayers of empowerment, prayers of mercy, and prayers of gratitude for him to be able to answer the question of Maharaj Parikshit. So first he prayed to Krishna that he could answer properly. So in order to speak, one has to have the mercy of Krishna. And Sukadev Goswami in this verse, he specifically prays to Rishikesh. Right? So he says that Rishikesham anusmritya, that unto Rishikesh he meditated. So Rishikesh is Krishna as the master of the senses, and he's praying to Krishna, essentially saying that you are the master of my senses, so please allow me to use my senses in your service. Because when one is answering a question, then the power of speech, the power of thinking, the power of articulating, so these are the manifestation of the various senses. So he's saying, O Rishikesh, O master of the senses, may I use my senses in your service. So he is displaying the mood of one who is answering, or who's taking the role of speaking the Bhagavatam. One should not think that I have memorized the Bhagavatam or I have studied it exhaustively, so now I am fully qualified. But one should only think that because of my effort, I am now fully qualified to receive the mercy of Krishna. So he says that prativaktum pracha krame. So prativaktum means, so vaktum means to speak, and prativaktum means to respond. So prativaktum means to reply, and prachakrame means that preliminaries before speaking. So this is the preparation that he is doing before prativaktum, before getting ready to reply. So Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport, the devotees of the Lord, while delivering speeches and describing the transcendental attributes of the Lord, do not think that they can do anything independently. They think that they can speak only what they are induced to speak by the Supreme Lord, the master of the senses. So this verse is so at different points of time we have been asked to speak, sometimes at the Sunday feast and sometimes to, as devotees we are constantly hearing, and what we hear we speak. So this verse talks about our mood in speaking. Yeah. Next verse 12. Shri Shukavacha Namaha Parasmai Purushasya. Sorry, it's a different meter. Namaha Parasmai Purushaya Bhuyase Sadudbhav Sthana Nirodulilya Grihita Shakti Trityaya Dehinam Antar Bhavayano Palakshavartamane. Sukdev Goswami said, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who for the creation of the material world accepts the three modes of nature. He is the complete whole, residing within the body of everyone, and his ways are inconceivable. So in 13 verses, from 12 to 24, Sukdev Goswami will pray for empowerment to speak on the questions that have been asked. So remember, there were three questions that are asked. Sukdev Goswami will not answer this question in this chapter. He will basically prepare. So the previous verse, it talked about the pracha krame for prativaktum. So he will execute the preliminaries. He will pray for empowerment to speak, and he will also demonstrate the mood of a speaker, and of course there is always glorification of Krishna. So first he speaks about the power of Krishna by offering respects to the Purushavatars. So how do we know that he's speaking about the Purushavatars? Because he says that the personality of Godhead, who for the creation of the material world except the three modes of nature. So Prabhupada makes the point that in order for one to represent the Lord properly through words or action, one must understand that it can only be done by His grace. So the first principle is to acknowledge that, to acknowledge the unlimited greatness of Krishna, and also to understand that the only reason that he is speaking is because of the grace of Krishna. The other point that should be understood is that even with the grace of Krishna, one can only understand to the extent that he is allowing himself to be understood. So one should not think that I have received some mercy, so now I know everything about Krishna. In fact, even Krishna does not know everything about himself. So that mood of humility should always be there. That even if a person is a sincere devotee, the person has received the mercy of Guru and Krishna, then he should understand that whatever enlightenment that he has is limited to the extent that the Lord has allowed himself to be revealed. It is limited to the extent that the Guru has revealed. Srila Prabhupada would tell his disciples that what I have told you is a very small fraction of what needs to be known. And then they would say, Prabhupada, tell us more. And he would say that in future, more and more will be revealed. So this was also Prabhupada indicating the empowerment of his disciples and grand disciples and great grand disciples. So sometimes people like to stay very much within the confines of what Prabhupada said, and which is a good reference point. But Prabhupada also said that more will be revealed. That is why we see his disciples like Gopi Parandan Prabhu, who have translated more books, Burijan Prabhu, who have written and gotten into greater depths. So it's not that they're trying to grandstand Srila Prabhupada, that we know more now, so we can tell more. But what they're doing is that they're taking the mercy of Prabhupada and acting upon that mercy. That he at that time revealed that was what was needed, but he also created the system of empowerment by which successively more and more could be understood. So I was recently reading Mukundmala Stotra, and the first, I think the first 5 verses in that are translated and commented by Srila Prabhupada, and he did not get time to finish the rest of it. So the remaining is done by Satsaru Maharaj in consultation with Gopi Paran Prabhu. And this is a classic example that it's not that Srila Prabhupada did not know after verse 5. He knew. And if he wanted, he could have done it. But he also left service for others. He empowered them and left service for others, so that there is glorification of his disciples and further down the disciplic succession. So in this verse, Sukadeva Goswami is also indirectly answering the questions asked by Parikshit Maharaj through his mood of offering obeisances. So he's saying that let me offer my respectful obeisances, who for the creation of the material world accept the 3 modes of material nature. He is complete and he is inconceivable, right? So this is a prayer. It is also an answer to Parikshit Maharaj's question of how does the Lord create? The Lord creates by accepting the modes of material nature. Does the Lord get contaminated? by this? No. He is the complete whole residing within the body of everyone. So how much more can one be submerged in the modes, right? If you look at us, we are completely bound by the modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, right? And within our heart is Krishna. So how much more can one be submerged in the modes? But yet, Sukadeva Goswami says that he is a complete whole. So complete whole means that he is untarnished. He is unaffected by the modes. And why does this happen? Because his ways are anupalaksya, that they are inconceivable. So in his prayers, he is first glorifying the Purush avatars, who are responsible for the creation, maintenance of and the destruction, which, as we discussed, are a manifestation of the modes of passion, goodness, and ignorance. So he says that this is Grihita Shakti Tritayaya. That this is the three modes of material nature. And then he is describing the pastimes so he says Anta Bhavaya. So Anta Bhavaya is one who resides within. So this is the so rewind a little bit, that when Krishna creates the material world, there are three Purush avatars that come into play. The first Purush avatar is Karnodaksha Vishnu, and by the activities of Karnodaksha Vishnu, there is creation, maintenance, and destruction of the universe. So when Sukadeva Goswami is glorifying Krishna as Grihita Shakti Tritiyaya, he is talking about Karnodaksha Vishnu. Then he is saying that Anta Bhavaya, that one who resides within. So one who resides within is the Paramatma. So this is talking about the second and the third Purush, which is the Garbhodakshay Purush, who resides within the universe, who is the super soul of the universe, and Kshodakshay Vishnu, who resides within the living entities and the super soul of the living entities. So, and then he says Anupalaksaya Vartaman, that he is realized by bhakti but not by the process of yoga. So Prabhupada mentions in the purport that because the empiric philosophers and mystic yogis cannot conceive of the personality of Godhead, he is called Anupalakshya Vartamani, the Lord of the inconceivable way, or Bhakti Yoga. Okay, so we will do the next verse, and after that we will stop for any discussions. 2413. Bhuya namaha sadvrijnachide satam asam bhavaya khila sattva murtaye sham punaha paramaham syashrame vyavatitanam anumragyadashuse. I again offer my respectful obeisances unto the forms of complete existence and transcendence, who is the liberator of the pious devotees from all distresses and the destroyer of the further advances in atheistic temperament of the non-devotee demons. For the transcendentalists who are situated in the topmost spiritual perfection, he grants their specific destination. So previously, he had given obeisances to Krishna as the three Purush avatars. Now Krishna is being glorified as Akhila Sattva Murtaye. So what does Akhila mean? So Khila means kill. Kill means inferior. Akhil means not inferior. So Akhil actually points to superior. In this context, Akhil spiritual existence. So for instance, in 1.7 Vyasadeva says Akhila Darshanam. Akhila Darshanam, that he says my philosophy was not complete because it did not glorify Krishna. So Akhil in that case points to Krishna, that which is superior. So Krishna is described as Akhila Sattva Murtaya. Murtaya indicates that he has a transcendental form. And even though Krishna is all everything, all powerful, all existence across time and space, but still is Murtaya. So so when Krishna is described as Akhila Murti, he is described as one who has a spiritual form. So when devotees become aware that Krishna is Akhila Murti, then they see him. And how does Krishna reciprocate? He reciprocates by delivering them. So Prabhupada, in the purport, he says, just like a kind father, either in his favor upon the devotees or his punishment of the demons, he is ever kind to everyone because he is the complete existence for all individual existence. So Sridhar Goswami says that in this verse, Sukadeva Goswami is glorifying the abilities of the Lord to give different results. So what does that mean? That the ability of the Lord to give different results? What it means that he is personal. One who is impersonal will give the same results, but one who is personal will have a personal interaction. So this is a very personal prayer by Sukadeva Goswami, where essentially he's saying that based on my levels of realization, please give me your mercy and empower me to speak. So this is the potency and sweetness of Krishna's mercy. That the mercy of the Lord is there, present to his utmost. But how much is it actually experienced depends on the disposition of the recipient. So the term that is used over here is anumrigaya dashuse. Prabhupada would give the example that there is a plug point in the house that is connected to the power center. Now you can plug a light that is very bright, or you can plug a light that is very dim. The plug point's potency is still the same, but the ability of the light to draw power is different. Same thing about Krishna's mercy there. But in addition to making this philosophical point, in his own context, Sukadeva Goswami, he is so this is an important message for those who will speak on the Bhagavatam. So he's making this point that may I not speak beyond my realization. So he's saying that, so first he said, allow me to speak up to my realization. Now he's saying that please do not allow me to speak beyond my realization. Why? Because if one speaks beyond one's realization, one is speculating at that point. So he is saying that I should only speak what I have realized as a symptom of commensurate to Krishna's mercy. Little bit more about the potency and the sweetness of Krishna's mercy. So how does it manifest? So for his devotees, it manifests by Krishna personally destroying any suffering in them by appearing as various incarnations like Ram and Krishna. So Sukdev Goswami, he says that I again offer my respectful obeisances unto the complete form and existence and transcendence, who is the liberator of the pious devotees. So that is one symptom of the mercy. Sadvrijna Chede, that he personally appears to destroy the suffering. The second symptom of the mercy is that he is destroying the suffering of the material existence. So he says, Asambhavaya, of the non-devotees, the Rakshasas and the Asata, the Asuras, by personally killing them. So when he personally kills them, the material existence is finished, which is good for them, because the longer they stay, the more sins they will commit. The Jiva Goswami comments that Krishna does this work through his incarnations. Third aspect of the mercy is that he gives shelter of the mood of the Paramhamsas. So when the Paramhamsa develop this mood of intense attraction to Krishna, when they develop this mood of intense mercy on the conditioned souls, then Krishna gives them shelter. So Krishna gives them shelter means that Krishna gives them an avenue to manifest that mood. When they're experiencing attraction towards Krishna, Krishna reciprocates with his own love. When they're experiencing a desire to liberate the conditioned soul, Krishna reciprocates by empowering them to act as his representative. Fourth is point that Sukadeva Goswami makes is that he's the giver of the bliss of Brahman to the Bhakta Mishra Gyanis. And he is the giver of the bliss of Prema to the pure devotees. So these are the 5 aspects of the mercy of the Lord that is manifested. And if you notice it, the mercy is varying depending on the disposition of the receiver. At the lower end of the spectrum, there is the Rakshasas and the Asuras. And Krishna's mercy is manifesting by killing them. Then, for those who are suffering because of the modes, Krishna, he appears and gives them protection. For the Paramhamsas, he supports their mood of love for him and the desire to give mercy to the others. For the Bhakti Mishra Gyanis, he gives them the bliss of Brahman. And for at the apex is the pure devotees, he gives them the bliss of Prema. Okay, so I'm going to stop over here. Well, also I'm out of time. Any comments, questions?
Just one comment, Prabhu. When you said that Krishna empowered his devotee, we see that Bhaktisiddhanta or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could have, instead of just saying a prophecy, they could have implement it themselves, but they gave the opportunity to the disciple and Srila Prabhupada to come to the West and to accomplish all this.
That is true. Prabhupada once said that my spiritual master was so powerful that he could liberate the entire world. And then somebody asked him that why did he not liberate the entire world? And then Prabhupada said, because he wanted me to do some service. And same thing. Prabhupada was powerful enough to do everything, but he left some service for us. Thank you for sharing that, Prabhu. Okay, if there are no more questions, we'll stop here. Ancha kalpatarubhayashchit kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, शिला प्रभुपाद की जय। थाई गौर प्रेमानंद। हरे कृष्ण।